This week's episodes were brought to you by the generous support of Yukofin. Hey folks, Quilly here, and welcome to a brand new tutorial for Unity 3D. Today, we are going to be working on a board game. Now, I want to take a minute and explain why I'm doing this tutorial. I'm still working at this time. I intend to do more work on the mostly civilized hex engine, and in particular, I've been trying to work on a talk for like the last couple of weeks, maybe 3 weeks now, about artificial intelligence, about AI, and I haven't been able to really find the right way to approach it in a way that's interesting, informative, and accessible. And so I thought, you know what? I'm going to go through my backlog of emails of people who have requested various tutorials. I'm going to pick something out that should be relatively easy to do, get the programming juices again, get something online, get back in the mode of it, and then we'll figure out this AI thing later. And I ran into this email from David who says, hi, my name is David. I have a programming question. I've just started programming, and I'm also a big fan of board games. I thought I could make a basic 3D board game in Unity. The game I'm trying to do is the Royal Game of Ur. After hours of trying, I can't figure out how to do it. I'd love if you could make a tutorial on making this game with its basic rules. The Royal Game of Ur is one of the oldest, possibly the oldest true board game ever. The rules for it were recently translated by someone at the British Museum, apparently. And it looks like it's a very early form of a backgammon kind of game. So what's going to be amazing about this is going to be a great tutorial for some basic Unity stuff. This is one of the things you don't need a lot of advanced knowledge to follow along with this tutorial. We are going to make this board game. It's going to be excellent. But not only that, after we're done making the actual board game, we'll sort of end that part of the tutorial and then move into writing an AI that can play the board game against a human player. And it's going to be the perfect way to go into artificial intelligence and talking about that kind of stuff. I'm really excited. So thank you very much, David, for that suggestion, which was back in September, but I've kept it banked because it was a good one, and we're going to have a great time with it. So again, first part of this tutorial going to be available. It's going to be really easy to follow. Learning the Unity basics, it's going to be a good time, and we're going to make this board game. It's not very dissimilar to something like backgammon, or even like if you've ever played like the game Sorry when you were a kid. It's very simple like that. It's just basically roll the dice, sort of, move your pieces around. If you land on someone, you bop them back to the start, and you want to get your pieces off the board. So let's pop into Unity over here. I have a blank project set up. I am running Unity 2017.1, but this will probably work in basically any version of Unity you've got. It's really not going to use much in the way of advanced functions or weirdness like that. It should be very straightforward. It's basically an empty project. I did go ahead and create 2 textures. They're lovely. We've got a blank tile, and we've got a tile that says roll again. Now, if you are more artsy than I am, one of the things you could do is grab this image here, which is one of these old boards, bring it into Photoshop, and maybe you can correct the angles and then draw over all the pieces so you get a nice crisp, clear version of these exact symbols for your board game or something like that. But we are going to work with just the graphic skills that I have available to myself, which is not very much. Okay, so we're going to leave those aside for now anyway. So in our Unity project here, we're going to start by making a cube, because we're going to have each tile is going to be a cube. Now, there's no reason you couldn't do this as a 2D game. I mean, basically, when you're working in 2D, you're just your camera is just locked this way, or something like that, and you're going to be working with like 2D sprites instead of cube tiles, but the logic is 100% the same. Still, I think it'll be fun to work in sort of 3D to get this going, so that's what we're going to do. So go to the game object menu, go to 3D object, and let's start by making a cube. This will be the base tile, the base square that you can land on. But so again, it's a square. We only need the top bit, but we'll give it a little bit of depth this way. It's going to look okay. You can, of course, mouse in and out. I like to work in isometric mode over here. By default, Unity does set you into perspective mode. In perspective mode, I don't tend to like to work with it, because when you're in perspective mode and you drag your right mouse button around, it just rotates the camera. Whereas when you're in isometric mode, whatever you're focused on, you orbit your camera around it. And I personally just find that way handier for myself. All right, so we got that. In our basic scene, we do have the main camera, and we've got a light in there. We don't really need the game tab right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go and hide it like that. I mean, you probably have a different layout to to your particular Unity thing, but as long as you've got your hierarchy, your project, your inspector, and your scene view over here, you're good. Later on, we will need the console, which is why I have it nice and centered over there. So, couple of things. First thing is, this cube is the graphic, is the visual for the tile that our piece is going to go on, right? Each one of these is going to be one of these little squares here. We're just going to scrooge everything together so it looks like one cohesive board. You could, of course, model this in another program. You could do a few different things to get the look, but I'm going to do this because it's very simple to work with and get started. You can always change things up later. You can lay everything out with these cubes and then decide to make a fancy model. Leave these cubes here, just make them invisible. So all the logic we're going to develop, you could totally do and just use the cubes as place markers for this is the place where you put your pieces and whatnot, but you can actually make them invisible. Now this cube is the graphic, and one of the things, if you haven't already learned this in Unity, it's going to be a lesson inevitably you will learn. Never make your graphic object, your visual object, just the sort of base object that's in your hierarchy. Always have it nested in something else. It'll save you a ton of trouble. And let's talk about why. First of all, let's take this cube. Let's go ahead and center it. So I'm just going to go into the transform here. I'm going to reset it to 0, 0, 0. Just double click on it to center it over here. Okay. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to create an empty game object. So this cube, I'm going to call cube-visual. And this empty game object that we've just created, I'm going to call this something like tile. It's the spot where you can put your guy. I'm going to call it the tile over here. And then I'm going to take the cube and put it inside the tile. Now, assuming you had everything centered and everything like that, the cube visual inside of the tile should say its position is 0, 0, 0. If it's not, take your cube visual, set it to 0, 0, 0 here. And what you've got is the tile spot, the 3D widget here, your transformation widget, shows you the raw coordinate, the 0, 0, 0 of both your tile empty game object as well as your cube visuals, and they're pretty much there. If I take my tile now, and let's say I move it, I'll just move it up. So my empty game object is now at a y of 1. My cube visual still has a value of 0 inside of its parent over here. And it makes it a lot easier by doing something like this. What it means is we can put all kinds of game logic on this tile game object, right? We could add our scripts and everything on here. If we decide to replace our visuals, we can totally do that. What if we decide, you know what? Tiles are stupid. I'm going to delete cubes are stupid. I'm going to delete this cube, and instead what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a 3D sphere inside of a tile. That's great. Your tile object is still there with all the attached, logic scripts that you've added, all the components that you've added to your tile, but we've changed the visual. Or maybe you've made yourself a 3D object in Blender or 3D Studio Max or something like that, and you want to swap out the visual. It's awesome. The other thing, I'm just going to go ahead and undo a few times here to get my cube back. The other thing that's really nice is this, again, this marker here, when you've got the tile selected, this is at the 0, 0 plane, right? If we look at the line, this line over here is y equals 0. That's the 0 height. Well, the top of the cube is actually 0.5 units because the whole cube is 1 unit tall. So it's sticking upwards by half a unit. That might be kind of awkward to work with. Wouldn't it be better if we took the cube and moved it down? And I mean, moving it down sort of manually like this, or by dragging the little y here is kind of awkward. But if you get it close, you're like, oh yeah, what if we moved it down to negative 0.5? Now what's great about this is the top of the cube is aligned with y equals 0. That feels like a great way to work. So anything where you set it to y equals 0 should sit on top of the cube. But if we click on the actual tile game object, you can see its transform is still aligned at the 0, 0, 0 spot. Really much nicer to work with. So that's the advantage. You can swap out the visuals, and it's a little easier to line things. Okay, I'm going to hit Control S to save here, and I'm just going to go ahead and, for whatever reason, I just like to name my scene this. You totally don't have to copy this idea. This is just my particular little thing to make it easy to see. Anyway, so we've got a cube nicely set here. This is going to be a tile. Now, we are going to add a visual component to this tile here. We're going to texture it or give it a material. So these words are a little bit interchangeable. what the cube represents, the cube itself has several different components on here. It has a mesh filter. It has a box collider, which we probably won't need, but we'll leave it there. The box collider is just for the physics system. We're going to ignore it for now. So again, it has the mesh filter. It has the mesh renderer. And the mesh renderer has a material slot over here, which you can see info there. And we can increase this and get some more information about it. The mesh filter itself contains the information about the triangles and the mesh, the vertices of triangles that make up your 3D object. If you go to your scene over here and you switch to wireframe view, you can actually see the actual, these little blue lines here, might be a little hard to see on YouTube, that describe the triangle. Each face of this cube is made up of 2 triangles, because everything in 3D is made up of triangles. That's what gets sent to your 3D processor. I mean, quads are sort of a thing, but not really a thing, so let's ignore that for now. So yeah, so that's what the mesh has. But the only way that your graphic card knows how to actually draw the mesh on screen, how to render the mesh on screen, is the information that you get the mesh renderer, which tells you things like, hey, do we use lighting or whatever, and what shader to use. The shader is the real instructions to the graphic card that tell it how to draw something on the screen. Now, actual shader work is way more advanced than this tutorial, but one of the things a shader can take is a material slot. Now, a material is really just a Unity thing that is a handy-dandy interface to the shader. And one of the things the material can take is a texture. It can take an image to be used in the rendering. So let's go, we're going to create a new folder. I'm going to call this materials, and I'm going to make a material in here. So I'm going to create material. And I'm going to call this material. Now, this material is going to use the standard shader. I'm going to call this, like, tile. Okay? So we have a material called tile, and it has this albedo slot, which I know is not terribly informative. It has to do with the physical-based renderer that is present in Unity as of, what, Unity 5 or something like that. But this is where you put in your normal image texture to, like, have something drawn onto your cube. So if I take this tile texture, so this is just a square graphic. I just drew it in 2 seconds in Photoshop. It's just a black border with a white in the middle, and that's all there is to it. If I take this tile, and I've got the material, the tile material selected, and then with the tile material selected, I click and drag the tile texture into this albedo slot over there. All of a sudden, this material has my texture applied to it. Now, this is the preview over here. You can change what object is used as the preview. For example, a cube over here, which is kind of informative because of what we're going to do. Now, if you don't want to click and drag, you can also click on the little dotted circle here, the target. This will bring up a list of all the possible textures in your game, and then you can pick the texture that you want from there. Okay, so now we have a material defined. Let's apply that material to our cube visual. So again, with the cube visual selected, in the mesh renderer area, there's this materials section over here, and it has the default material attached to it. We can drag the tile material into that, or again, you can hit the dotted circle over here for the target, and then we're going to target the tile material and close that. So my tile material has now been applied to our cube. Now, what we're going to need is we're going to need a series of these, because we are going to want these cubes. Let me take this directional light and move it like a million miles away. Nice thing about the material light, or the directional light, it doesn't care where it is in the scene. It just does uniform lighting from one direction, so we can put it a million miles away so that it's, you know, not in our way over here and annoying us. If we go back to the image from the British Museum entry on Wikipedia here, we can see that we need, I think it's 20 tiles, right? Because this is 12, 13, 14, and another 6 over here is 20. So we're going to want a group of those. And what we're going to want to do is basically copy this tile. So you can do it a few different ways. One of the easiest things, you can right-click and duplicate. You can also do Control-D on PC or Command-D on the Mac. Will create a duplicate of a tile. And then, you just do this. And that's cool. But what if we decide we've made a mistake or we need to do a change? What if we're not happy with one of these tiles and we're like, you know what? Because of reasons, we need this tile to be bigger. We need to take this tile and take its visual, and we need to scale it up by, this much. See, it only changes the first one, and you got to change all the others. So what we're going to do is, rather than make a duplicate like this, I'm going to get rid of my extra copies here. I'm going to take this tile and make it into a prefab. I'm going to make a new folder for this, keep everything nicely organized. I'm going to call it prefabs. It's a prefabricated object. We take this tile, we drag it into prefabs. One thing that is interesting, this tile text is now blue, and that tells you that it's linked to a prefab. And what's great about this is that we can take this prefab, oops, there we go, I dragged it in the wrong place. There we go, we can take this prefab, we can drop it back into our scene, and these things are linked. If I decide to go and make a change to one of these, let's say I make a change here, again, I set the size bigger, it will only affect the one I'm working on at first. And the reason for that is I'm making changes to this instance. And you can see that it's in dark font over here. But if I hit apply, it'll apply that changes to the prefab, and every other thing that's based on that prefab will then get updated to match, which is really handy. So I'm going to undo this because obviously I don't actually want these cubes bigger like that. Oh, apparently the undo does not affect the prefab. Okay, that's okay. I'm just going to reset it down to 1. I'm going to apply the changes there. So we're back to a normal cube. Now, I can still go and just duplicate from here, using Control D. The copies will still be linked to the prefab, so we're going to be okay. So we're going to need 20 of these in all. Let's get them out one at a time here. Let's figure out our layout. Now, we are going to want to lay these out just like the board on the website. Now, doing this sort of by dragging is a little bit awkward. The nice thing, because we're using cubes of size 1, our offsets will always be 1. Like, basically, I'm going to want the next one here, and you can see from the position here, it's like, oh, that will be -1 is correct. That can still be a little awkward to do. If I go and duplicate again, one of the things you can do, if you hold Control, like I'm holding Control right now, you see how it snaps? Really nice. So we're going to do that, duplicate again. I'm holding Control D, start the drag, then just holding Control, it locks it in. So I'm going to do the same thing again and again, and we need 2 of these, and then duplicate. We need 1 there, we need another one there, then that goes down there, duplicate over there, and then we need to do the other side, which is you, and then finally over here, da, 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 and da. I have a nice collection of tiles over here. They're not necessarily named or ordered in any particular way, but we're going to make an adjustment to that, well, I guess right about now. So let's explain how this game works. Basically, each player has 6 pieces, and on each player's turn, you just take turns. You will roll, in the game, you roll 4 pyramidal dice, basically, or tetrahedron dice. So they have 4 points. 2 of the points have a notch, and 2 of the or are painted in some way, and 2 of the other points don't. It's effectively the same as flipping a coin. You can think of it as flipping 4 coins, and the number of heads you get is how many pieces you can move forward. Sometimes you'll get all tails and you'll get 0. Sometimes you'll get all heads and you can move 4. Sometimes you'll get 1, 2, or 3. 2 is the most common of the options. At about 3, I think it's 3 over 8 is your chance of getting a 2. So it's slightly more common than the other possible outcomes. So you flip your 4 coins or roll your tetrahedrons or whatever you want to do to generate randomness, and then you can take one of your pieces and move it forward that many. Your pieces, let's get a dummy piece here. I'm going to create, tell you what, I'm going to create an empty. This is going to be player 1 dash piece, just because whatever. Inside this empty, I'm going to go and create I don't know, let's make it a sphere. And let's go and get this piece. Let me center it up first. Double click here to reset my camera view. And just pull it off to the side. I think what I want to do is I want to take this sphere. I want to shrink it a little bit in the X. So let's say 0.75 and in the Z 0.75. So it's a little slimmer this way. A little smaller, you see, than the square. And in the Y direction, I want to squish it down quite a bit to make it almost like just a little token. There we go, something like that. There you go, little pellet, little pod, and that will be our playing piece there. I mean, obviously, it should probably have a flat bottom so it doesn't wobble, or some of these boards were dug in a little bit so that the stones would sit properly in there. I guess I could call it that, player 1 stone. Looks like it could also be a go stone, although the go stones are, again, they're flattened at the bottom over there. So we got a piece there. Tell you what, I'm going to go ahead and make this a prefab. And I shrink it down. Make sure when you're dragging these around that you don't grab the sphere. Like, you don't want to grab the visuals and drag it around. You want to grab the main game object and drag that around. So let's say I went and moved it over here. Now, one of the things to note is that this piece is penetrating into the board. And that's because our game object is set at a y of 0, and our sphere is also set at a y of 0, which means the center of the sphere is in the middle. So again, what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab, at this point now I'm grabbing the sphere visual. I'm going to pull it upwards to something like that, so it's just resting on the surface. Good. And then I'm going to apply the changes to the prefab. So again, the player 1 stone is at 0, but visually it looks like it's sitting properly. That's the advantage. It's one of the many advantages to nesting everything inside of a game object like this, is you can have all of your various pieces all sitting at a y of 0, but look right. So the way it works is you have a bunch of these stones off to the side. You roll your dice, then you take one of your stones, and starting from this tile here, or if you're the other player, this tile here, you would go, how do I quickly drag it there? Oops. I'll grab you. There we go. So let's say I rolled 3. I would go 1, 2, 3. And then my opponent would then have a turn, and then on my turn I would roll again. Let's say I get a 1. I've got 2 options now. I can either take this guy and move it up by 1, or I can take one of my other pieces from the side and move it here as a 1, for example. When I get to here, then I move into the middle, move up this way, get all the way to the end over here, make a little corner this way, and then there, and if I can move off the board, then that piece has been scored. You win when all 6 of your pieces have been scored. And that's it. That's the game. There's a couple of extra things. There's some tiles that you can land on that allow you to roll again and also are treated as safe spaces. And if you happen to land on your opponent's tile, let's go. I'm going to make a duplicate of this. I'm going to call this player 2 stone. And I'm going to make a material here. Let's make 2 materials. One is going to be player 1-stone material. And then we're going to have material player 2-stone material. We're not going to apply an actual texture. I'll just change the albedo. So we'll make the stones. Let's go with quite dark. And just because my table is white, I'm going to make the player 1 stone color just a light gray like this. It should still be fairly differentiable. We're going to call this the player... Oh, we got a prefab over here. So the player 2 stone, I'm going to take the sphere, I'm going to set your material to the player 2 stone material, like that. I'm going to apply the changes, so that's player 2. And then the player 1 stone, let me get rid of the extra one. This one over here, we're going to expand you, click on the sphere, go to the material, and we're going to assign your material to the player 1 stone material. So there you go. So it's a light gray. I think we can clearly tell the difference between these 2 stones over here. We're going to apply the changes, make sure that's all applied, and as a bonus, the player 1 stone will be, there you go, a little bit more visible on top of this. What I should probably do is change my little tile color over here, my beautifully drawn tile, to a different color. Maybe I'll do that now. Let me give it like a light bluish kind of tint, maybe. Paint bucket, there, save that, go here. Sure, something like that. I don't know. It's fine. Let me make the player 1 stone color actual back to vibrant white. Okay, just a little off-white. There we go. I think that pops well enough. Okay, I'm pleased with that. Anyway, so that's it. So this player 1, you go like this and around. As player 2, you would start over here and around. And if you land on someone else's stone, you bop them off the board. So let's say I am player 1, and I have a stone here, and then player 2, I'm going to set its Y back to 0 here. Player 2 has a stone here, and it's player 2's turn, and player 2 rolls a 2. He can go 1, 2, and what happens to my stone is it gets bopped off the board, and it has to restart the entire trip. Likewise, you cannot have 2 stones in the same tile. If I am here and I roll a 2, I'm not going to be allowed to go 1, 2, and have 2 stones in the same tile. That is not legal. I would be forced to start a new stone over here, or advance this guy 2 steps. Very, 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 very simple rules. So there we go. I'm going to take the player stones off the board over here. what we're going to do is I'm going to go and name these tiles to be a little bit clearer. So I'm going to name the tiles over here player 1 start dash 1 2 3 4. I think that's going to be a relatively reasonable naming convention. Player 1 dash start 1. And then hit enter to lock that in. And this one here is player 1 start 2 and 3 and 4. Now this over here is going to be player 2 start 1, 2, 3, and 4. And what we might want to do at this point is reorder our items in the hierarchy just to be a little bit more orderly and sensible. So let's take the player 2 start 1 and put it right over here. There we go. So we have the player start tiles sort of grouped up and in the correct order. That looks okay. Be sure not to drop it on one of the other tiles. Make sure to drop it in between the two tiles, or you're going to change the nesting and do silly things. We'll call this something like shared 1, middle 1. Yeah, I like that. Middle 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And I know this is not particularly exciting, but oops, I accidentally copied. But doing this sort of stuff will dramatically help you keep your project organized over here. And then this is going to be player 1 dash end 1 and end 2. And then over here, it's player 2 end 1 and end 2. And again, I'm just going to drag the player 2 bits to be in the correct order for their movement over there. Control S to do a little save over here. We've got you coming along very well. Last thing I'm going to do in this video, because I don't like having a scene hierarchy with a bunch of things in there. A great thing we can do to keep things organized is we can go and create a new empty. And we're going to call this the board. It's the whole game board. Now, I'm going to take the transform over here. Let's make sure to reset it to 0, 0, 0. This is going to be very important. Just reset it all to 0, 0, 0. So just sitting in the middle of the thing. Then I'm going to go and select all of our tiles, and I'm just going to put it inside of the board object. The great thing about this is it means I can shrink the board so that our hierarchy is not cluttered. And if for some reason we have to move the entire board, I can take the entire board and move it around. And again, locally, even if I end up sending the board upwards, everything inside still has that local Y of 0, which keeps everything nice and clean. So I'm just going to go ahead and recenter the board again at 0. Great little setup over here. Very pleased with this. Okay, so I mean, we haven't done any real programming yet, but we've set up the core of where our environment will be. We've got our various materials and prefabs. Other than making the dice, like we've got all the objects that we need. We were going to leave the dice making to a little bit later because we're going to talk about a few different techniques that we might want to use to do that. So that'll probably be the next episode, in fact. I think, just for visual appeal, what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to create a new 3D object. I'm going to create a plane. And I'm going to set this plane. So if I were to set it to 0, right, it would be level with the top of our board. Let's set it at a Y of -1. And then we're going to scale it up to, like, I don't know, 100. You don't have to scale it up into Y. You can. It makes no difference whatsoever. But now we have a nice, nice area for this to sit on. We get little shadow effects and stuff. You know what? I actually kind of want to make it smaller again. I kind of liked it when it was on a little bit of a surface like this. Don't you find that kind of appealing? Also, I just realized that our middle row, that's interesting. Our middle row here is at a Z of 1, which I don't particularly like. I would much prefer it if it were centered on the middle. Now, what I can do is grab the board and give it a little -1 nudge over here to get everything centered up. But I'm actually not super keen on the middle board having that -1. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab all of the middle tiles over here, and I'm going to give them a Z of 0. Then I'm going to grab all of the player 2 pieces. The player 2, like this, I'm going to give them the Z of -1, so they're on the other side. And all the player 1 pieces, I'm going to give them the +1 over here, which I think we'll put them closer to the camera. Well, either way, we'll figure that out. But there we go. Our board is, once again, reset here. The actual board object is 0, 0, 0, and it's nicely centered on our midpoint, which looks great. So I think the plane, what do I want to do? I think I want to make it a little longer this way. I mean, we could actually even make like an actual table for it to sit on. This thing could have a cool sort of wooden inlay pattern and things like that. You know, wouldn't it look kind of cool? Especially if we go ahead and move into the perspective mode. I don't know, something like that. We'll figure something out, but I think this is a good start. So next episode, we'll figure out the dice mechanic to make them roll different values, which is going to be very, very surprisingly tricksy. Because there's a bunch of gotchas that you've got to be aware of. And then we'll actually get the pieces to move around on the board. We'll implement 2 human players, and then the second part, right, the second chapter, not the second episode, but the second chapter of this tutorial will be creating an AI opponent for us to play against. Thanks for watching, folks, and I'll see you guys next time. Thank you to all the October patrons who make these videos possible, including these Mic Check supporters: Yoko Finn, Eric Sumner, Adam Keenan, Danny Welch, Tiburon, Mighty Mix, Pavel Zdanov, Michael McClintock, Aaron Tyson, Rorskal, Gurko Dries, TNSEE, Jasper Bisgard, Julien Gelafon, Marius Field-Vold, Speedy Savant, Steven Steger, Thomas Oberson, Jason Yanity, Stephen Bonnerman, Easter Egg Productions, and Neil Blakely Milner, as well as everyone who likes, favorites, and subscribes to these videos. Thank you very, very much.